of Dodge, 1320 Kings Insider, and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham, here with us. The average player on the Los Angeles Lakers has played 11 years. They have 11 years of NBA experience. They have 8 players with 12 plus years of experience, and 4 of the top 5 active players in career games played on this version of the Los Angeles Lakers. So they were old. They do have a combined 57 all-star selections. They have 7 players who have made an all-NBA team. And according to Basketball Reference's Hall of Fame probability, the Lakers have 5 players with a greater than 98% chance to make the Hall of Fame.
Wow. And like the crazy thing about this is they're not playing with guys that like, it's not like they're playing with Bill Russell right now when you talk about how Westbrook can still play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron can still play basketball at a high level. Carmelo, he might be the closest to like being done, but Carmelo's not some kind of rub out there.
You missed AD. Yeah.
Well, he don't play, but he's talented. And even I thought they could have played Dwight Howard more this year. I was kind of surprised by that. I feel like he still has good basketball left in him.
Yeah, there's a reason why you don't play him. He's an odd duck. I think in my book they have 4 first ballot Hall of Famers and 1 like second, third ballot in Howard Hall of Famer.
Dwight should be first.
No, I don't think he's first ballot.
I call foul.
You think he's first ballot?
He's first ballot. Orlando Dwight Howard is first ballot all alone.
Yeah, but he hasn't been good in 10 years.
But he was really good for 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time. I don't even know if it's 8. I think he was really good for like 6. I don't think he's been great for a long time. I don't know if he's first ballot. I mean, just for my money, and like, there's enough about him that like I think turned him off with voters. So
that's probably true.
Yeah. Also, did you see who's getting into the Hall of Fame now?
Oh my God. Jesus.
No, I'm not even gonna say it because I like all those people, but Dwight Howard, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's always strange. I would kind of put him like really in the Chris Webber category, where I think that they'll make him wait a little bit. But that's just me. I think he'll have to wait a little bit. And I think he's a Hall of Famer, like certainly. The rest of the other 4 like first ballot Hall of Famers, no question.
Man, what a disastrous trade this was. What a disastrous season this was for the Lakers.
Well, and it's a season that will bleed into next season. That's their biggest problem. This is a gift that keeps on giving. It's it's the jelly of the month club right here. It's definitely it's one of those things where you're just like, how could you make one trade that was so boneheaded and short-sighted in trading for Westbrook? And sorry, Westbrook lovers, but that will go down as one of the worst trades ever, because it hamstrings them this year and next year, and then the year after that. I mean, you're running out of time with LeBron. It's not like we got 5 years left of him. We don't. So you're just wasting years, the last years of LeBron. I mean, LeBron was like in the running for the scoring title. He's playing up to what he's got to do. It's just the other guys haven't.
Yeah. James, we talked about this as well with in regards to the Lakers and kind of bringing the Kings into it. If that trade goes down on draft day, I think that was, between the Kings and the Lakers, are both teams different and better with the trade going down?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would have made the Kings a lot better, and it would have made them better. Like, for as much as I bag on Buddy Hield, he still would have provided the perfect thing that they needed. They needed a 3-point shooter to space the floor. They needed 8 3-point shooters to space the floor, and they passed. So I think it would have made them way better. You know what else would have made them way better? Just not making any trade. That would have been just fine. They actually would have been really solid if they would have just not made any trade and then tried to bring back Dennis Schroeder. And, I think that there's a lot of ways that they could have helped themselves in this situation and they chose the wrong path. And to be honest with you, the coach is one who's going to get fired most likely, and like all assuredly. But it shouldn't be him. It should be Rob Pelinka, and it should be their whole front office who just did this classic blunder. And for that matter, like this is you reap what you sow, right? And this is LeBron. I mean, it's on LeBron. He did the same exact thing in Cleveland, where he demanded that they trade for this guy or pick up this guy or sign this guy to a big fat deal, and then he left them high and dry with a bunch of trash that did not work without him. And so at this point, he's squandering the final couple of years of his career because he meddled too much in what they're trying to do. And that's why executives should do their job, and you can take input from players, but in the end, you need to do what's right for the franchise, not what one player thinks is best for him. And because clearly, J.R. Smith was still getting paid for years. Like, just bad. Kevin Love, still under contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, that's big money that you paid a guy because he fit with LeBron.
Real quick now, I want to ask James this on that same subject, though, because I talked about it when me and Dame were talking about it. And I said, in the grand scheme of things, because I agree with everybody here, I think the Kings would have been better if the trade would have gone down. It would have helped them out. But in the grand scheme of things, in a roundabout way, I feel the pairing of Fox and Sabonis is the best outcome of any realistic outcome that could have happened this year. And I think, I don't know if they get Sabonis if they're better, earlier in the season. I don't know if Monty feels pressed to make that move if they're, 3, 4, 5 games better, and in contention at that point. So in a weird way, it might have worked out for the Kings, even though they had to suffer through this god-awful year. I think having Sabonis with Fox and having that as your core into this future, into this near future, I think that's the best case scenario out of all the stuff that was available.
I mean, you might be right. And it's tough to, it's not like you can piece things together and say, okay, well, they could have done this and this and this. Because, Kuzma is one of those guys that would absolutely fit perfectly with the other guys that they have on the roster, the current roster now. Even if you could have landed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and then gone ahead and made a move down the road, that would have made a lot of sense. This team would have actually been pretty solid. And then if you could have added Sabonis to that, which could have happened, you still had the movable pieces. I mean, Sabonis only makes $18 million a year. They took on Buddy Hield, but they would have done that deal with lesser pieces if they were still getting Tyrese Halliburton. But, again, you just never know. You just never know how these things would work out. The coulda, shoulda, woulda is pretty tough.
Yeah.
This is going on right now. I thought I'd bring this to your guys' attention. 76ers playing Toronto tomorrow. On the latest injury report, the 76ers list Matisse Thybulle as ineligible to play.
Oh, my.
That's of note because the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics didn't want to answer whether their teams were fully vaccinated or not. Again, another plot twist here is Philadelphia, as of this exact moment, is slated to play Toronto in the first round.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, I know it's a big deal because Thybulle's a good player, but he's like their 8th best players.
But still, I love that Canada's like, I don't give a damn what y'all doing down there. You ain't coming into our country. You can stay down there and play your little basketball game, but you ain't coming here, Brody. Sorry.
It's funny. It's their basketball game. Dr. James Naismith is Canadian.
Yeah, well, that too.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see this play out. It's going to get interesting because guys are basically going to be outed for their vaccination because of this, and there's nothing you can do about it. What are you supposed to say? I guess you could say out for personal reasons. That would have made a little bit more sense if you wanted to protect the player, but maybe you don't want to protect the player. Even still, it's too late for him to go get vaccinated now. He wouldn't be cleared in time. So,
I don't think their vaccination is a shot. It's 3.
Oh, yeah.
It's 3, right? Like, and you don't get. It's not like you just go in and say, "Stick me 3 times." It's like 1, you get another one. What was it? 2 or 3 weeks later, I can't remember what it was, and then the third one was even later after that. So you're basically stuck right now if you're Philadelphia, or if there's someone on Boston. If you're anyone who has to line up with Toronto, you're in a tough spot right now.
Well, real quick, from what I heard, the math that was broken down to me is if you get it, well, this was probably 2 or 3 days ago, but if you get it today, you could be good by the time you got to go to Toronto, because you figure you got this week. You're a 3 seed, so you're going to start at home, and you've got until probably the following Friday or Saturday to go to Toronto. That's about the 2 weeks you need to be considered vaccinated enough to play. That's the way it was presented to me. Like, you get one of those shots. It's just a one-shot thing. You need 10 to 14 days, but you'd have to get it like today or like 2 days ago to be ready to play in Toronto.
Yeah, but if they require the booster, every booster is a 6-month wait. So,
yeah,
I think it was an 8-month wait, right, for Pfizer when I got my booster. We got our original shots in early March. Second shot was late March and like a year ago. And then we had to wait until October, November for the booster. Yeah, it's a mess. No, it is. And
it's interesting.
Jesse,
you knew it was coming, though.
Yeah.
Jesse says be considered fully vaccinated. You either need both shots or one Johnson & Johnson.
So that doesn't include the booster. Okay, that's interesting. We knew it was coming with Toronto making the, Toronto being in the playoff picture and all that. We knew that this was coming in some way, shape, or form, because they don't have the same. Hey, come on in. We'll figure it out later. That's not the way that they ride there. We'll come back. We'll talk more.
Toronto.
If you think I'm here to play God damn it on that.
We'll come back. We'll talk more with James Ham about the Sacramento Kings and about the NBA as D'Lo and Casey continue on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Yeah, that's 100% Canada.
Yeah.
Damn it, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, also they won't let you in if you have a like a felony conviction, right? Yeah, you're not allowed in.
Jeez.
There's a great story that
Tell me that.
Dwayne Tickner, the former assistant coach for the Kings, used to tell. He had a game when they were in North Dakota. I think he was coaching in North Dakota. They had a game in Canada, and they got like a mile before the border, and they had a guy on his that they had a guy on their team that had a felony, and he wasn't allowed to go in. So they snuck him underneath the bus with the luggage.
Oh my.
And drove across the border with him hiding in the luggage. And then they got up there, they played. Tickner said he played so horrible that on the way back we left him under the bus for an extra like 7 miles.
That is terrible.
And
that's the most Dwayne Tickner story ever.
It was like -18 below on the outside, so he froze his butt off underneath the bus. But
man,
but they snuck him into Canada. I mean, their stories from the minor leagues are so spectacular, like trading players for steak dinners and like all kinds of stuff.
That's amazing.
People want me to put on the fedora.
Fedora ham was popping.
That was a good look. That was a good look.
Happy ham. Yeah, that's a good look right there. Come on, man.
There we go.
If you were a real one, you would have wore that last night. That's happy ham.
I wore this to the game.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. You must have had it off when I seen you.
No. The national championship game.
Championship game. Okay.
Yeah.
Game. I was thinking last night.
Oh, no, not last night. Last night I couldn't remember my name half the night. No, I was so tired. So, yeah, I was working on probably an hour and a half sleep.
Oh, baby. I'm almost done. Oh, sweetie. That is not comfortable.
I'm watching the show on the boxing channel on the Pluto app. It's called Fight Night White Collar Boxing. Or basically they take like your accountant, put them up against another accountant, and they
Fight Club.
Yeah.
It's basically Fight Club without Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. Yeah, Meatloaf.
White collar boxing right now. This guy, I don't know who these guys are, but they're not boxers, but they go through a whole thing. Like they follow them as they train, and
that's crazy.
So.
If I disappear, it's because Smoothie has had it with this show.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I got my peoples here today, so they've got the dogs upstairs.
She's got her hand right on the power strip. She's like, "Go ahead, mess around and find out." She's like, "This is going to be my last act of defiance before I leave you."
That's right.
Poor baby walking on 3 legs right now.
Oh, that's not good. We still have the little one picking on the little fat pug. She beats him up.
Okay. Almost done.
People make me laugh.
How does James look switch so damn much by switching hats? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I definitely am a comfort guy. Like during the summer I'm in shorts. I don't wear shoes most of the time. Flip-flops.
Flip-flops around the like when you're just out and about.
Oh, I wear flip-flops the whole summer. Dad and I have these cool summer shoes.
Mm. I'm bringing the show back. I'm bringing the show back. It's D-Lo and KC, brought to you by McQueen and the Violet Fog. Y'all got to log into the stream real quick. It's twitch.tv/ESPN1320. It's youtube.com/ESPN1320. Facebook Live. You got to see James Ham with the fedora. It's a whole different vibe when James Ham, when New Orleans James comes rocking the fedora. Happy Ham indeed, man. He's a real one. Would have wore that last night to the arena, but I think we'll plan on game 1 next year. Golden One Center. Happy Ham makes an appearance.
Yeah. Like we'd have to put some sort of like some game up. Like if they add 4 players or something that could change the outcome of this next season, I'll wear it.
Damn, 4?
Yeah,
they need 4.
Yeah.
Look, first of all, Ham does not know why we call him Happy Ham. It's a wrestling. It's
I don't. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, spot on. And also that goes into what I derailed the show with, or derailed the plan of the show with, and we spent like an hour and a half talking about. And I want to ask you, Ham.
Uh-oh.
I had a bit of. Would you consider this an epiphany, Damien?
Yeah, it was kind of an epiphany. Yeah.
I sat here and I thought of, what was going on and 16 years and all this other stuff. And James, 17 can't happen by any means necessary. 17 can't happen. You have to get this stink off this franchise and off this fan base. And I'm fully prepared to do a Minnesota Timberwolves. Like if you just make it next year and then you don't make it following and you got to kind of rebuild from there, fine. We'll figure that out. But 17 cannot happen. I'm trying to keep Fox and Sabonis, but every pick that we have moving forward, I'm not worried about your future draft picks. I'm not worried about your financial stability moving forward. You need to do everything you can if you're Monty McNair and Vivek Ranadive to make sure 17 does not happen. And the other reason why 17 can't happen, because James, I believe you're not just guarding yourself against 17. If 17 happens, everybody's gone, and now you're staring 22, 23 in the face. So you need to get the stink off this franchise by any means necessary. Fox and Sabonis are the only two that I'm hanging on to. Every other pick and every other player to get another transcendent player, or as close as you can to it in here, is on the table.
I agree with you. The one thing that I think you started that entire thing with Monty McNair and Vivek Ranadive. I'm just going to tell you that if Vivek Ranadive wants to be involved in stopping this, it requires him to walk away and let the basketball people do the basketball things. Because if you allow him in the door, he's proven that that will not work. That whatever it is that he wants to do, we do the opposite. Because that's where we're at. We're at a point where a completely broke family that got run out of the league had a shorter streak than you did in the Maloofs. And so we're looking at what, this is year 8 with him, or 9, and nothing. Like, we get it. Like it's really hard because Vivek has succeeded in life at almost everything, right? I mean, the guy's made like close to $1 billion. He's done a lot of things right. Not everything, I'm sure he's had failures in personal lives and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, this is a guy who has succeeded and succeeded and succeeded, and like, he's almost got the Midas touch. Everything he touches turns into gold. I mean, he bought the Sacramento Kings for a valuation of $535 million, and now they're worth $1.9 billion. I mean, it's not like this. Again, it's the Midas touch. He quadrupled the money. That's unheard of in an 8-year, 9-year stretch. So I get it. Like, letting go is really hard. Let go. If you don't let go, you're going to strangle it. And that's it. You already have it like on the ropes. It's almost dead. You're going to strangle it. So let go. Let basketball people do basketball things. You can come in and you can see what they're doing. Walk in the room, see what they're doing. Shake hands. Good luck, guys. GTFO. That's it. If you want to end this streak, it's pretty simple. And if you don't want it to end, keep doing what you're doing, because certainly hasn't worked. So that would be my lesson and like my advice. It's the hardest thing to tell somebody, but it's like, look, man, like, how many coaches have been fired for failing over the same amount of time? You're the only one who can't be fired. How many coaches? How many assistant coaches? How many GMs? Those are all on you. Those are your decisions. Like, back away from it. Let somebody else do it.
And I think one of the things that I'm concerned about heading into what I think will be a coaching search is I'm confident in one way or another, Doug Christie is going to be a part of that search. And Doug is Doug's our guy, but he's already been pegged as Vivek's guy. Whether that's accurate or not, whether it's fair or not, he's already been pegged as the owner's hire, which means if we go through this coaching search and Doug Christie gets the job, everyone's automatically going to think, oh, Monty's not even running this team. We're screwed. Not even, and that it's not even going to have anything to do with Doug Christie. It's just Doug happens to be the guy who was pegged as Vivek's pick. And he's already starting behind the 8 ball. And we're already going into this offseason, or we're already going into the next phase of this offseason going, Vivek is doing what Vivek does. We're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest issue that you have with Doug. I mean, again, Doug is my guy. Doug is my friend. I want to see him succeed. And he's put in a weird situation because, to
no fault of his own, by the way.
No. And if there's a coach that comes in and they say, hey, look, you're going to have to take on Doug. Doug's going to be part of your coaching staff. I think any coach can walk in, can sit down with Doug Christie, and Doug can explain what Doug does, and they're going to believe Doug. He's one of the most genuine people you'll run across, and he's honest. And so I think he's got an opportunity to stick around and like make sure that he, he's a guy that can help. He can help bring along the young players. And if you do, for some reason, make him the coach, then it just has to be with specific rules in place. And that would be my problem. Rule number one, he has to have like a $5 million budget to go get a coaching staff and a training staff and a whatever. He's got to have an unlimited budget to bring in the best of the best of the best. And that means he needs a right-hand man that is a seasoned, an Alvin Gentry type, a seasoned pro.
Yeah.
But then he needs a top-tier offensive guy, a top-tier defensive guy. If Rico Hines is the answer, Rico's fine. Give Rico the tools to bring in more people. If the training staff is right, that's fine. If not, make moves with the training staff, the medical staff, whatever it is you've got to do to get this thing right, do it right now. Like, this is it. We can't keep seeing the same thing. Again, we talked about this the other day when we brought up the Will Z stat. But 24 assistant coaches, that speaks so much louder than how many players or how many executives or how many head coaches. You had head coaches switching out their entire coaching staff except for one or two players every year. That's just not conducive to winning. It's just an absolute train wreck. And almost every single one of those is in the Luke Walton era, because Dave Yeager's people, they were with him the whole time. Like, none of those guys left. So we're talking about 24 assistant coaches in 3 years, and they didn't even replace Alvin Gentry when he moved up to the next spot. It could have been 25. It could have been 26. I mean, you lost coaches here. It's crazy.
Do you think that, from your sense of talking to people and talking, people in that front office and in the building, do they have that same sense that I just laid out, that 17 can't happen? Everybody wants to do it. I know everybody wants to end it, but it's different when it's like, by all means. Like, I don't care about the 2026 first round unprotected. Like, I'm serious when I say that. And I know that might be irresponsible for a friend. I don't care. Like, they have to get 16 off of this fan base and off of this franchise. If it's one and then you start back another 2-3 years, so be it. But it can't be 20. It can't be 17.
I think the problem that you have with that mentality is that is the same mentality they've walked in like the last 5 off seasons with.
Is it really though, James? And I'll stop you there, because they've never said, to hell with the next 2 draft picks, we're going to go get this all-star. Like, Marco Bellinelli is not going to get Donovan Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying
but you have to have you got to have someone else who wants to dance. Like, you can't just say, like, I'm going to trade this pick, and this pick, and come up with 2 all-stars. I mean, someone has to be willing to give up those players. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I think that they literally have walked into almost every offseason. I would say this offseason, they thought that they had done enough, and they were set up to make another big move. They thought they had done enough to snap the streak. Last offseason, they could have told us that, but that's a joke. That team wasn't good enough, and we knew that from day one. But every other year, you did take some step back years, like the Dave Yeager's second year where they gutted the whole entire team. That's one of those years where you're like, well, it was his second year where they brought in five rookies. But the year before, they did kind of go for it, and it didn't work out. So, yeah, I would like to tell you that there's going to be some plan that magically comes to fruition, but it's just so hard. I mean, you can see the outline, but that you got to color inside the lines and fill up all the squares and like figure out how to make it look right at the end of the day. And like, they have not proven that they can do that.
Which is why I'm not optimistic about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for not being optimistic. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fair. I mean, I think that the Kings would even tell you that's fair. But it's more of a, well, let me show you, because we did just, select 2 winners in the draft in back-to-back years. We did just make a franchise-altering trade to get a 25-year-old 2-time All-Star. Like, I think that they're looking at it that way. Like, look, we are showing you that we're on the right the right path. But, after this season, we just talked about it last week, right? After this season, if Rashawn Holmes is no longer on the team, they would walk into next offseason, not this offseason, with $57 million in dedicated salary, roughly $70 million under the cap. And people will go, oh, yes, just so people know, that's not a good thing. It's Sacramento Kings. You're not getting to, like, top level.
LeBron and Dwayne Wade aren't plotting to come to Sacramento.
Yeah, they ain't taking their talents to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The capital of California.
Yeah. I don't even know what you want to call it. Yeah,
The
they're
city
not
of
taking their
trees.
talents here to the city of trees. There we go.
City of trees.
Yeah, they're not doing that. So I mean, that's even worse. That's a situation where, I mean, you have to take advantage of your assets, and right now their assets coming into this offseason to $40 million in expiring contracts yet again. A bunch of first-round picks. Take advantage of it. You got one or two young players that someone else might want. Someone else might look at Davion Mitchell and say, he needs to be my starting point guard. Okay, well, what does that look like? And so, like, look, I think they need to be open to just about everything, but they do have to build it for right now, because if they don't have it built by the end of this season, then is Sabonis going to stay? And that's a problem.
Yeah, and that's where I get the whole thing about 17 isn't just 17. 17's 20, 21. Because if they don't make it again, Sabonis is probably gone. Fox probably asked out. Monty McNair is probably gone. And there's a tear down that's going to happen where you're going to look like OKC. So 17 isn't just, oh, we missed it again. Now we're rebuilding and we'll make it in the 18th year. No, like, we're looking at another 3-4 years after that. That's where I get the urgency, especially with this Sabonis trade for next year. Like, all that stuff that you worry about in the future, it's kind of got to be out the window, because this year is so crucial. Damian said it perfectly the other day. This offseason and this season will define the next 5 years of this franchise, in my opinion. I agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at how this could play out again. Like, if you get Monty McNair the option to hire his own coach right now, he should do that with the understanding that 3 or 4 year contract, that he's the one who's going to be here for that. But that's not the way it's worked out. It's not the way it worked out with Malone. It's not the way that it worked out with Carl. It's not the way that it worked out with Yeager. It's not the way it worked out with Walton. You hire a GM, he hires a coach, the GM gets fired, the coach still has too many years left on his deal, so he comes back for, you got to get a GM that's willing to take on the team with the coach that you have in place. Like, this is a perpetual cycle of ineptitude. And that in itself, that one thing right there, how they keep having the coach and GM mix up, like, that is on one person. That is on one person. And so you got to let these things play out. Like, whether Monty McNair is the answer or not, I still don't think we know. And I think we knew that Vlade Divac wasn't the answer. But if the bubble never happens, Bogdanovich is back with the Kings, last season. Maybe a couple other pieces are back with the Kings last season, and we could be looking at like a second year of the playoffs. Like, all of these little things, all of these little misses, they compound, and you just keep making the same mistakes. It literally is a definition of insanity. You just keep doing the same thing and expecting something different.
It's not the definition of insanity, but that's fine. That's a conversation for another time. Is there a player, and I think you had an opportunity to see some of them at, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4? That's a game like that. That's a franchise changer. Like that influences the franchise immediately.
Yeah, I think number 1 and number 2 and probably number 3 are all. We had this discussion on the podcast today, me and Brendan made a really good point. He said, if you landed Chet, or you landed Jabari, or you landed Paolo Banchero, any one of those 3, they are better than what you have at the power forward position right now. So just drafting one of those 3, if somehow you got into the top 3, it would already mean an improvement in year 1 of what you already have. But it would also mean that year 2, year 3, year 4, you have the ability to get much better, right? And, that's no disrespect to Chemezi or to Trey Lyles, but like Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, and Paolo Banchero are all better. They walk into the league and they're not only higher ceiling, but their floor is equal to or better than what you already have. And so you can make improvement just by getting those those 3 players. And people who don't believe in Chet are crazy. I mean, he's going to be one of the best defensive players in the league coming into the league. I mean, he's an absolutely incredible defender, and we aren't even seeing the tip of the iceberg on what he can do on the offensive end because that's not what they're asking him to do. So, and I like watching Banchero in the finals. At the Final Four, the biggest takeaway for me was not that he's so incredibly talented and the skill set is just like I don't think it's a perfect fit for the Kings, but I mean still he's absolutely a tremendous basketball player. It's that they went up against a couple of big guys and got their starting centers in foul trouble right away, right? So Mark Williams was out of the game, and then they brought in their backup center, and he ended up with 4 fouls in the first half. Paolo Banchero went over and slid to the 5 and played spectacular position defense and didn't even pick up his first foul until like midway through the second half. Like that's what you're looking for in games like that. It's not like how many points can you score. It's how good are you under pressure when things go wrong and you're asked to do something you're not comfortable with. And I thought he was tremendous. Where I think some of the other guys, a guy like AJ Griffin just completely fell apart, and all of the things that he's good at fell apart. But he couldn't even step up and do something outside of his normal. He couldn't do anything, and we saw some of the other guys step up. But yeah, I definitely think like Banchero still makes me think of a player with an unlimited ceiling. And again, you're always going to worry about fit with him, but that's okay. Like I thought he was really good overall, and I think those guys are game changers.
Hey James, if you can just take a moment to explain to the people why you agree with me that Tim Duncan is slightly below Damian Jones on the top 75 list. I mean, if you see what Damian Jones is doing, I don't think Tim Duncan can do those things.
I love what Damian Jones has been doing. I think the cool thing is look, when you get an opportunity in the NBA, you have to take advantage of it. Like we've seen so many times, go back to guys like Malachi Richardson. He gets his little bit and you're like, oh man, Malachi's got something. And then he tears his hamstring and he's never the same player and he's out of the league. Like when you get an opportunity, you got to show out. You got to be present. You have to be ready. You have to play within yourself. You have to be forceful. And I'll keep throwing, look at Davion Mitchell's stats and they're great, but how does it project with somebody else? And I mean, I'll say the same thing about Damian Jones, but Damian Jones has been in my mind, he's been a bigger surprise in the last 10 games than Davion Mitchell has. Just everything that he's been able to do. And I really like his potential moving forward. He's 26. I mean, it's not like he's a young kid. But there's no reason why if it's not with the Kings, he needs a 2 or a 3 year deal in the league. Like he should be a backup center for somebody, and he can do just about everything you need him to do as a backup center, and he gives you something different. He's such a good kid. He's such a hard worker, and so for me to watch somebody really get it and have one of these moments, does he rebound perfectly every time? No. Does he make mistakes? Sure. But out of everybody, he's been the one constant that he's been tremendous. And I hope that he's back next season. I don't know if he will be just because of the way that, the salary's built and you still have Alex Lynn on the roster and you still have some of the, you still have to worry about what's going to happen to Mias Queta. But Damian Jones is a guy that I think every team in the league should look at and, think, yeah, I can fit him in.
What's the biggest thing? So money's the biggest thing standing in the way between Jamie Jones and the Sacramento Kings, or is it like minimum amount that can be offered is too high? Like there's sometimes like little loopholes in these things that make it complicated to re-sign a player if you're not giving them a big extension.
Well, no, I mean the most complicated thing with Damian Jones is that he's an unrestricted free agent. So, like, it doesn't matter what the Kings want to do; it matters what he wants to do. Where does he want to play? Is there a team that, like the Golden State Warriors, that says we just can't keep doing this with Weissman and keep running him out here at, like, he can't play, he never plays. Can we bring Damian Jones back into the fold, and can he fill in and be a guy that can give us 15 to 20 minutes a game on a big time winner? Like, that's where you're running into the problems. Is there going to be, because I don't think he's going to get more than, say, like a 2-year $5 million deal or a 2-year $6 million deal. We're not talking about like an $8 million player. Like,
But it's the teams that are offering him that deal that could complicate things for Sacramento.
well, of course, it's always going to be that. Where does he want to play? Does he want to play closer to home? Is there something that, like, he just wants an opportunity that's different? He looks at this team and goes, man, Sabonis is going to play 35 minutes a night, so that's going to leave me with 13 minutes. Maybe I don't want to be here. I mean, I think it's about opportunity with a young guy like this, and I think he's proven that he can do just about anything that you need him to do. Like I said it early in the season, he's Rashawn Holmes light, and by the end of the season, he's pretty much Rashawn Holmes. Like his stats the last half of the season are tremendous. I think in his last 10 games is something like 16 points, 8 point something rebounds, a block, 1.7 blocks. Like, he's just been really good. So I'm in.
So hear me out on this one, James. And this I'm gonna bring back, kind of a obscure name, but he's shown a little something in these games, and that's Josh Jackson. Now, I brought this up to you not too long ago, and I understood all the reasons why you wouldn't even think twice about Josh Jackson. But he is a talented guy. Like, if you watch him play, like, there's things he can do on the court that are like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's NBA level. You can see him adjusting. But I look at what Rashawn Holmes has been able to do in recent years since he got to Sacramento. I look at Damian Jones, what he's been able to do since he got in Sacramento. And those guys are talented on their own. But I look at a coach or two coaches like Rico Hines and Lindsey Harding, who I think have helped these guys find who they are in the league and tailor their games to that. You also look at Rico and what Pascal Siakam says he learned from a guy like Rico Hines. And you have Josh Jackson, and I'm not saying like you break the bank to bring him back or you even cut somebody because you have to bring Josh Jackson back. But if you are able to keep a guy like Rico, who's starting to get a track record of being a heck of a fun a player development coach, I wouldn't mind them spending $2 million to bring Josh Jackson in here and see if Rico can work some magic with him. I think that's a risk worth taking for a team like the Sacramento Kings.
Okay, I'll say this is a difference between the two, between like the guys you listed and Josh Jackson. Rashawn Holmes had basically developed who he was as a player, right? He's an energy guy, pick and roll specialist. He's got his flip shot. He plays good defense. Damian Jones, rim runner, plays good defense, hustle guy, can block some shots, can rebound. What Josh Jackson is moldable clay, but it's moldable clay that's starting to get a little dry and crusty on the outside. Because if you're not willing to accept who and what you are by age 25, then you're so much closer to being out of the league than you are to signing a new deal. And that's my problem with him. I watch him play and I just think it's all erratic. It's all over the place. It's exciting, but it's, like half the time you're waiting for like clown car music to start playing. Like, it's out of control. It's wild. He's just so unrefined as a player. And it's not just unrefined like in his body motion and what he does. It's that he's unrefined in who he should be as a player. And if you're not willing to accept a role in year 4, year 5, then you're almost out of the league. Like, you're so close to out of the league and you just don't get it. You'll go to Europe and you'll make a bunch of money. You'll go to China, you'll make a bunch of money. But if you haven't accepted that you're not like a frontline starter by 25 and you're playing limited minutes on the Sacramento Kings bench, you're in trouble. And so, like, there are certain guys that I would invest in, but the guys that I would invest in are guys who are really good at what they do. They just might not be good enough. They might not be NBA good at what they do, and you just need to bring them up. Like, that's something that I think you can do. I don't think what you can do is basically try to turn a top 5 pick into a 3-and-D player when he's not good at either defense or shooting the 3. You know, he's good at being a frantic, chaotic player, and that's just he's not even really refined at that. So, like, I get what you're saying, but there are players that, you know, in the league that can help you more, that are more refined in who they are and what they do.
You mentioned something a minute ago, James, that stuck out to me when we were talking about Damian Jones and what happens with him. You mentioned that we have to see what happens with Neemias Queta. I kind of just thought Queta would just be back under another 2-way deal next year.
Yeah, you know, that's a question mark. I don't know if he's under a 2-way. Either way, the Kings have his rights. So, I mean, they have his rights for his first 4 years in the league. And, like, the way, like, I've been looking, and I haven't done enough research and called around within the front office to say, hey, is he under a 2-way contract for next year? If he's under a 2-way contract for next year, that's one thing, right? Because I think they're going to tighten the restrictions on 2-ways eventually. But until we're totally clear of the COVID era, I don't think that that's going to happen.
Meaning the number of days
Yeah,
that
so
you could be with your team.
Yeah, so it used to be you could have a 2-way player up to, it wasn't 45 games, it was 45 days with the team. That's now up to 50 games. And I think they even lifted that and said unlimited amount of games. So a 2-way player makes half of a rookie scale contract, which is, I think next season's like $975,000. So a 2-way player makes, I don't know, $487,000 or something around that. And then every time he gets called up for a game, he gets a league minimum check for that game. And so he can make up to a regular NBA salary by getting all of these extra games under his belt. Now, it used to be that they could only come up for 45 days. At a certain point, I think the league will go back to somewhat of a different structure, somewhat closer to what they had before, but I'm not sure. And then, like, I don't know if he's actually a 2-way or if he's just if they just have his rights for next season. But again, this team has 2 second-round picks. They're not good enough. They're gonna have to, roster spots are gonna be valuable at some point. If you can't make the necessary changes, like through the draft, through trades, through free agency, then you have to start looking at options like taking on players from other teams to get draft picks, and so you might need roster spots. I think he'll be here, and I know the Kings do like him, but they like him so much they played him 10 minutes in the game last night, and they didn't play him at all on Sunday. And I mean, we got to the point where it's like, look, man, just let the kid play. Again, I'm super proud of Damian Jones for stepping up and being this type of player down the stretch. We got it. We know who you are. Now let's give Neemias a shot, because winning certainly shouldn't be the prime thing that's happening right now. I know they're trying to build a culture of winning. Yeah, that ended.
You ain't going to do that in game 81 and 82.
Yeah. You're not going to do it against a Suns team that's sitting everyone. And the one good thing I will say this, the Lakers have 31 wins. The Kings have 29. I do think the Kings will go for 30 wins because, you know, that's one of those benchmarks. Oh, we'd only be 1 game less than we won last year.
Way to go, guys.
Right? But the fact that if they win 1 more game, they're still the 7th spot in the draft lottery. And so if they win 2, then they tie the Lakers. They'd split to 7-8 if the Lakers don't win another game. So to me, that would be like danger zone. But you can still win one of your final 2 games. And so I expect them to try to win 1 because of the fact that, you know, they're in this sub 30 win season. But yeah, it's a mess.
That's amazing. We're only one win away from where we were last year. We played 10 more games, but we're only 1 win away.
Jeez, how depressing.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't depressing, James, was national championship game, man. How was that?
Oh, I had the best time. I mean, first of all, New Orleans is so incredibly cool, but the championship game was just amazing. Like, I can't say enough about just the atmosphere. I mean, 70,000 people, not one of them which was wearing a mask was a little sketch. But just the whole entire atmosphere, it's really, really cool to be at games where there's just a totally split crowd. And, you know, again, the lower sections, you can see they have them broken up into 4 sections. And then for the finals, they have 2 sections. But the rest of the stadium is just intertwined, and half the people are cheering, half the people are, you know, upset. Like, I just, the atmosphere alone was spectacular. And then, you know, you get 2 teams that were just incredible. Like, they were really good teams, where Duke was nothing but a bunch of individuals trying to show out. I thought, you know, Kansas and North Carolina were the 2 best actual teams. And, you know, you can give me Baycott on my team any day of the week. I'll take that kid all day long. If you don't think that guy can rebound at the NBA level, you're crazy. I mean, that guy is just one of the most special rebounders that we've seen at the college game. How do you have 22 rebounds in a game with a bum ankle? How do you? And the next, he puts up a double in the next game with a completely trashed ankle, and then it sort of looked to me like he dislocated his ankle on that last play. And to watch him, I watched him go down, and then I'm watching him like lay there on the ground. He looks up and play's still going on. And to watch a kid with a completely destroyed ankle get up and hop to the other end on one leg and get in position before they could call a timeout, it was just like, yep, sign him up, sign me up. I don't care if in the second round, if he's in this draft, sign him up. I'll take him. I'll take him in the second round. That's fine with me. That kid is just absolutely a beast. And I thought, Akai Abaji, I thought really stepped up in the final game. I thought Braun was good. Brown, it looks like Braun, but it's Christian Brown. I thought he really, there were moments where you're like, where's he been? And then you look up and he's got 11 rebounds for a shooting guard. So I thought that there's some really, really cool individual performances. But overall, I'll say this. Anyone who has a chance, go sign up for the NCAA lottery so you can go get tickets to the Final Four. And you still have to pay for them, but it's truly one of the great experiences if you're a sports fan. It was so much fun to watch.
The latest episode of the Kings Beat podcast that James was just referencing there a few moments ago is available now wherever you get podcasts.